Hello, sixth graders. Welcome to our next math lesson. We are taking a look at lesson 102. It is dealing with mass and weight, and this lesson is going to start on page 533. As you look at the new concept ideas for today, it starts talking about physical objects are composed of matter. Now, I know you're saying, Mr. Johnson, I thought this was math class and not science class. Well, just bear with me for just a moment. I'll give you an idea of why we're bringing that up. The amount of matter that's actually in an object, that's called its mass. So the amount of matter in it is its mass. Now, in the metric system, not something that we use an overabundance here in the United States, but we do. There are some things that are in the metric system. They use mass by, they measure mass, by using these particular terms. They would use either the words milligrams, and in milligrams, the abbreviation for milligrams would be mg. They also measure things in grams, and that abbreviation would just be G. And then they would also measure in kilograms, and that abbreviation is going to be kg. Now, exactly how much does each one of these weigh? Well, let's start with the milligrams, and you'll notice that on my sheet here, if you had a salt shaker, and you were to spill out some of that salt, and you were to take just one of those little grains of salt, just one of them all by itself, that would be the equivalent of 1 milligram. So as you can tell, 1 milligram is incredibly small, and it's incredibly light. Not a lot of mass to that. Now let's go a little farther up where we have a paper clip. If you take a look at a paper clip is going to be about the equivalent of 1 gram. Again, we're not talking about something that's overly heavy, but we're noticing that there's a big difference between one little grain of salt and then one paper clip. And then when we deal with kilograms, you take a look at a kilogram, about the weight of a textbook. In your case, you have a Saxon Math book right in front of you. Usually about the weight of a typical textbook is going to be about 1 kilogram. So you're noticing that there's a difference going from milligrams to grams to kilograms. Now, this would be a conversion chart that I think is going to be helpful for your lesson for today when you're trying to convert from like milligrams to grams or from grams to kilograms. If you take 1,000 of these little grains of salt, 1,000 of them, and combine them together, it's going to equal 1 gram. And then also, if you take 1,000 of those grams and combine them together, it's going to equal 1 kilogram. So if you look at the conversion, if you were basically going from grams to milligrams, you're going to multiply by 1,000. But if you're going from milligrams over to grams, then you're going to divide by 1,000. Same over here. If I was going from kilograms to grams, again, I'm going to multiply by 1,000. But if I'm going from grams to kilograms, it looks like I'm going to divide by 1,000. We're going to come back to that in just a little bit. Now, in the United States, we use something called the customary system of measuring weight. The weights of objects usually are found in 3 different weights. There's going to be ounces, and the abbreviation for ounces is OZ. They are also given in pounds, and the abbreviation for pounds would be LB. Or they also give it in tons. The abbreviation for tons would be TN. So now, sometimes, and I don't know if we have to do that for lesson for today, and I'm not sure, but sometimes they are going to ask you to go from metric to customary. So for example, the object of a mass that is 1 kilogram, that weighs about 2.2 pounds. So keep that in mind if you're going through your lesson for today. 1 kilogram weighs about 2.2 pounds. So if I'm going from kilograms to pounds, I'd multiply by 2.2. If I was going from pounds to kilograms, I would divide by 2.2. Now, exactly how heavy are these things that we're talking about? What about ounces? Let's say, for example, you're going to write a friend a letter and you were to put it inside of an envelope. If you put a letter, like a single sheet of paper, fold it over a couple times, put it inside of an envelope, and you seal the envelope, that's going to be about 1 ounce. So again, not incredibly heavy. When you take a look at what exactly how much is a pound relatively is about 1 shoe. When you say about 1 tennis shoe, that's going to be about 1 pound. And then when you talk about a ton, it's about the equivalent of about a small car. Okay, it's about a small car would be about a ton, excuse me. Now, just like with the metric, there are ways that we can convert, excuse me, the customary units of measurement. So for example, if I have 16 ounces, then that's going to equal 1 pound. So if I'm going from ounces to pounds, it looks like I would divide by 16. But if I'm going from pounds to ounces, I'm going to multiply by 16. Same over here. If you're talking about a ton, 1 ton is equal to 2,000 pounds. So if I'm going from pounds to tons, I'm going to divide by 2,000. But if I'm going from tons to pounds, I would multiply by 2,000. Okay, so these are the customary units of measurement. Now, whenever you are converting, when you're going from one measurement to another, we should always remember this. If you are ever going from a bigger measurement to a smaller measurement, we are going to multiply. And the reason why we're multiplying is both of these measurements are still equal to each other. The only thing that's changing is the number that's out in front. So we want to make the number bigger. The opposite of that is if you're going from a smaller measurement to a bigger measurement, you're going to divide. Again, they are equal. So they're going to equal in value. The only thing that's going to change is the number that's associated with it. So let's use that for a couple of our word problems that we have for today. Let's say, for example, I have 2 kilograms. I have 2 kilograms is how many grams? Now, if you remember from the previous slide, there is 1,000 grams inside a kilogram. So I know that grams are bigger, kilograms are bigger than grams. So here it looks like I'm going from a bigger measurement to a smaller measurement. So I have 2, so I'm going to start with my 2, and I'm going to multiply because I'm going from a bigger measurement to a smaller measurement. That means I need to multiply, and I'm going to multiply by 1,000, and the reason why I'm multiplying by 1,000 is because there's 1,000 grams in a kilogram. So if I multiply those two numbers together, that final answer would be 2,000 kilograms, and I want to make sure to label that with the kg, kilograms. Let's say I do the customary unit. Let's say I have 64 ounces. 64 ounces is how many pounds? Well, I know that there are 16 ounces in 1 pound. So here it looks like I'm going from a smaller measurement to a bigger measurement. And so if I go from a smaller to a bigger measurement, it looks like I have to divide. So I'm going to take my 64 and I'm going to divide by how many ounces there are in a pound. And there are 16 ounces in a pound. So I'm going to divide by 16. So I'm going to take 64, I'm going to divide that by 16, and that answer is going to be 4. And so my answer would be 4 pounds, right? In the abbreviation LB, 4 pounds. Now, sometimes, you may not necessarily have to divide or multiply. You can kind of use some logic to help you out here. For example, half of a ton is how many pounds? Okay, well, here it says I'm going from a ton to pounds, and I know that tons are bigger than pounds. So it looks like I'm going to divide. So I can go ahead and take my 2,000, because I know that there's 2,000 pounds, and I'm going to divide. Well, if I cut something in half, hopefully we recognize that means that we're dividing it into 2 pieces. So I'm going to take that 2,000 and divide that by 2. And by doing that, I find that my final answer is going to be 1,000 pounds. Okay, so we have talked about these converting in the past. It's a nice review to remind, especially up here when it's about going from a bigger measurement to a smaller measurement, we need to multiply, and going from a smaller measurement to a bigger measurement, we need to divide. Now, another part of our lesson for today is sometimes measurements are given using a mix of units. So for example, let's say Sam is going to finish one of his facts practice tests, and he finishes his test in 2 minutes, 34 seconds. This right here, this is called a mix of units because there's both minutes and there are seconds. That's a mix of units. How about the sister? The sister might weigh 7 pounds, 12 ounces. 7 pounds, 12 ounces. Again, that's another mix of units, pounds and ounces. So the following down here are examples of how we could add and subtract mixes of units, or how we can add and subtract pounds and ounces. So let's take a look at this first one here where we're adding. Let's say there's something that weighs 7 pounds, 12 ounces, and I want to add on to that 2 pounds, 6 ounces. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to make sure I add my ounces together. I don't want to add pounds and ounces because they're not equal to each other. I want to make sure I'm adding labels that are the same with each other. So I'm going to take 12 ounces and I'm going to add 6 ounces, and that's going to give me 18 ounces. Okay, I have 18 ounces. Then if I come over here and add my pounds, I've got 7 pounds and I'm going to add 2 pounds of that, which gives me 9 pounds. Okay, now it'd be really easy for us to stop right here, but we know that there are 16 ounces in a pound. And so if I ever go to add these, and this number here is either 16 or more, I need to kind of reduce it. I need to increase the number of pounds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 16 ounces out of this. I want to take 16 ounces out of 18. Because I know that there's 16 ounces in 1 pound. So if I take 16 ounces out of 18 ounces, that leaves me with 2 ounces left over. And now, since I have that 16 ounces, I'm going to convert that to 1 pound. So now what I'm going to do is go back and add a pound onto the 9 pounds. And so ultimately, this is going to be 10 pounds, 2 ounces. So this would actually be my answer. Not this, because this is not reduced. This is not narrowed down far enough. If you ever get an answer that's more than 16, you got to take 16 out of that and add 1 to the pounds to get my answer. Now, what about when you go to subtract? Now, the subtraction looks fairly simple unless you really look at it, because first of all, we want to subtract the ounces and we want to subtract the pounds. Well, if I go to subtract the ounces, I cannot do 10 minus 12. Some of you might be tempted to think that 10 minus 12 is 2, but think about that. If you have 10 of something and you take 12 away from it, are you going to have 2 left over? No, you can't do that. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go borrow. I have to make this top number bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow from the 9 and change that to 8. So now I have 8 pounds. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 pound onto the 10 ounces. And the mistake that some people are going to do is they're going to turn this into a 20, because through your math life, you've always crossed 1 here, add 10 here. But there are not 10 ounces in a pound. If we're taking 1 pound away, we got to add 1 pound on here. And I know that there are 16 ounces in a pound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross out the 10 ounces and I'm going to add 16 onto it. Because, like I said just a minute ago, there's 16 ounces in 1 pound. So now my 10 ounces, adding 16 ounces onto that, would be 26 ounces. Now I can go ahead and subtract. 26 minus 12, that would give me 14 ounces. And now I'm going to subtract the new pounds that I have, 8 minus 7, which is 1. So my answer is going to be 1 pound, 14 ounces. We do the same thing over here. I have 6 pounds, 4 ounces, and I'm going to subtract 1 pound, 12 ounces. Again, I cannot subtract 4 ounces minus 12 ounces. I can't do that. So I'm going to borrow from the 6, make this a 5, and I'm going to take that 1 pound and add it on to the 4 ounces. Well, there's 16 ounces in 1 pound, 16 ounces in 1 pound. So I'm actually adding 16 to this number here. So I'm going to take 4 plus 16, and that's going to give me 20 ounces. And now I can go ahead and subtract 20 minus 12, which is 8 ounces. And then I'm going to take my 5 pounds, subtract 1 pound. That's going to give me 4 pounds. All right, so be very careful when you go to add and subtract these. Over here, when you go to add them, if you get an answer here that's 16 or more, you got to take 16 out of it, add it to the pounds. like I did here. Over here, when you subtract, you may have to change this top ounces. If you have to change this top ounces up here, borrow 1 from the pound and add 16 onto this, just like I did here. Add 16 onto that as well. All right, so if you take a look at your assignment for today, your assignment is going to be on pages 535 and 537. You're going to take a look at doing letters A through 25 for your assignment. So if you have any questions, sixth graders, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here to help you. If you need to go back and watch the video again to help clarify some things, please do that, or contact me. I will gladly help you out as best that I can. So good luck with your lesson for today, and we will see you with the next lesson.